All right, we're back again with another edition. This time, talking about the transfer portal, players leaving, people going to the NFL, people staying, a lot of movement. Not, and then we're really not going to get a full picture till Friday of this week. This is being recorded on is it this Sunday. Dude, since the new year, I've been way off on my days. So, the only reason why I know it's Sunday is because there's NFL games on. So, let's get into it. Let's talk about it. There's also drama with big time players. The whole thing so far. The theme of the transfer portal for Georgia this year has been high retention rate, and not a lot of guys going and declaring to the NFL. So that though last night at about 7 o'clock there was a huge monkey wrench thrown into that. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. But let's talk about things that we know for sure. So you want to start off with the players leaving?
Well, yeah, I mean, the ones that I come to mind that I think had an impact, unless I'm missing any, Aguero's gone to Ole Miss, right?
Yeah.
Hughley transferred, right?
Still, I know that, yeah, he's in the portal. There is a possibility that he does come back.
And he start if I'm not mistaken, if he didn't start, he played in early on in the season more than
He at
right.
least had two starts because
Yeah.
Ernest Green there missed a little bit of
But
time.
I can't think of. I mean, are there other ones that have made an impact that have transferred to another school?
Well, so this is the thing. So you got Adrian Maddox, who grew up. He went to Heritage High School. He was a depth piece when we got him last year in the transfer portal. He's back in the portal. Andre Evans, corner, was a 4-star. Doesn't really have big of an impact because you got DeMello Jones, and you got oh my God, I was about to say Roderick Robinson, Ellis Robinson. Janelle Guerrero's gone. Jaden Harris again, depth piece, went to Kansas. Chris Jones, a linebacker, went to BC. Jordan Thomas, again a depth piece, goes to South Carolina. You got Nair Daniels. He's been kicked off the team. Roderick Robinson, and then Daniel Harris, who declared a long time ago. I'm not even going to say Pierce Spurlin. He can't. By the way, the NCAA doesn't even exist really anymore. But because he had to medically retire because of his heart condition, he's not allowed to go back to the University of Georgia.
Wow.
Isn't that like the dumbest rule
Yeah.
ever? Like
Yeah,
it's
out of
so
all the
stupid.
things, boy, out of all the things to actually start enforcing, I don't blame you. I would live and die on that hill. What the fuck? Um, Look, I mean, I were talking about it off air. I mean, this is I used to really like pay attention to recruiting, you know, years ago because I thought it mattered because there was an era when there wasn't the transfer portal and the NIL and all the other craziness, and you could follow a person, a kid from high school until they started playing or not at Georgia. But now I don't even. There's so much drama. I think it's so negative. It's like it is the Wild West. I tend not to pay too much attention to it. And the key is what you said earlier, Georgia to retain, the key pieces. And I know last night with the rumor mill that was going on, I'm glad I'm not on social media, but I know there was some concern, and maybe there still is, because I think, hey, this is Georgia where their program is, meaning one of the top programs in the country. You're going to have schools that are going to tamper and try to get your guys for more money or whatever the sell is going to be, the pitch, to leave. And if the culture is not strong, and the program slips a little bit, this retention thing that we're talking about is not going to be so easy. So I'm concerned, but I don't get all worked up over the rumor mill, but maybe you want to tell a little bit about what's going on last night or yesterday.
Yeah, well, but let's talk about what has happened, then we'll
All right.
go to So there's a lot in this puzzle. So Georgia, they lose out on depth pieces, not major contributors to last year's team. Probably weren't going to contribute this year either.
Well, Aguero was probably going to lose his job. Dinkins.
Yeah, Aguero's going to lose his job. Bo Hughley probably had to sit for another year with. I mean, Monroe Freeling still hasn't said that he's going to come back, but it is with Bo Hughley leaving and going into the portal, kind of says that Monroe Freeling's not going to leave. Really, the two players that had eligibility but went to the NFL that were major contributors were C.J. Allen and Zachariah Branch. So you didn't really lose. You haven't lost a whole lot, and which is what the copium that everyone was taking after the Sugar Bowl loss was that a lot of this team's coming back. And our point last week, or the last time that you saw us, was, well, with the transfer portal and all these things, you never know.
You still don't
know. So far, the copium has been right. But let's talk about players that Georgia has gotten. First, Khalil Barnes from North Oconee. By the way, 24/7 has him as a 3-star. He was a freshman All-American. He was a starter every single year at Clemson. He was probably their best defensive player his entire time there. I think that is a huge, huge pickup for Georgia. I know Clemson fans were butthurt and they were showing some of the misses that he had in games. But, you're going to have misses. Also, whenever you're the best player on a shitty team, you're going to have a lot of misses. I think this is a great pickup. I think this kid's really good. And especially with KJ Bolden and him back there, because of him, Georgia's defensive backfield is so much better. And last year, you missed on a lot. I mean, you went 0 for 3 on safeties.
Yeah.
And so this kid can be a starter. I mean, obviously, because you had Dinkins, Aguero left, and then you have this Barnes. I think it was a combination of Dinkins was getting playing time and Barnes came in. Aguero had nowhere to go. So, for me, this is one of the bigger pieces, and it happened the day after losing the Sugar Bowl. So that was a big get. The next was Braylon Conley, cornerback. He's 6 foot, 190. Played at USC. Who's the DB coach at Georgia right now?
I can see his face. I don't know.
Williams? Is that his name?
Yeah, I think so. Came from USC.
Yeah, came from USC. Recruited him. Again, he's probably going to be your third cornerback. He's going to be the slot guy. He's going to play with DeMello and with Ellis. So, good, rangy guy. Good pickup. Jamari Riddle. By the way, a lot of people are putting this down. Dude was a all-conference player in the American Conference at ECU. I got to tell you, look at what Indiana's doing. I don't think it's a terrible philosophy of getting guys who were good or great in a smaller conference who have a lot of experience playing to come in, and it's a depth piece. What's the worst thing that happens? So if he hits, it's great. Plus, also, he's 6 foot and 182. The dude can play corner.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are starting to open their eyes to exactly what you're talking about. Looking at Indiana, look at the D3 schools and the kids that are doing really well, that have developed. They're older, their bodies are more mature, and they played a lot of football. I'd much rather go and get a 3-star from a D3 that's developed. You know what I mean? So I think everybody's going to be looking at that. So we'll see how it pans out.
But yeah, I think that's a good pickup. I watched a little bit of tape on him. I thought he looked pretty good. But then the two biggest, let's go with Isiah Canion, wide receiver from Warren Robins. Played with Rayshon Dinkins. Dinkins is making a huge star on our right now in this recording. But Isiah Canion, I think, is that Colby Young type body, 6'4", 215. Not only is he big, he can fly. I thought he was really good at Tech. He was, Tech is a run-heavy offense with Fart Face, what's his name? Haynes King. So they were a run-heavy, so the stats aren't there, but go and watch him. He blocks well. He's fast. He can catch. He's a big body. So I think this is a great pickup. By the way, if you want to know what's wrong with the transfer portal and like why I hate it and probably you hate it, his dad played at Tech, and now he's at Georgia.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at what's his name, played at Georgia and then transferred and went to Tech. So the tight end. So
Yeah.
it happens. I mean, the thing that you said that's really important whenever Georgia gets receivers out of the portal, it seems to me the ones that we had, I don't know, I shouldn't say that. We had a good luck with Zachariah Branch, and he didn't fit this mold. But Kirby, if you're gonna play in Kirby's offense, you gotta block. And this kid came from a system that I think required their wide receivers to be good blockers, and he's a big body, and so obviously that's always a good thing at wide receiver position.
Yeah. So and then let's talk about this real quick before we move on to Amaris Williams. You're losing Noah Thomas, you're losing Dylan Bell, you're losing Colby Young, and you're losing Zachariah Branch. Shout out to that kid that was crying about Zachariah Branch going to the NFL as the kick was going in for Ole Miss. What a kid! But to me, I mean, Georgia missed out on Trey Richardson, who went to Louisville. I know there's rumors about the Ole Miss wide receiver. I forget his name right now. Not Lee. I forget who the number 17. I know that there's rumors that he might be coming to Georgia. I don't know. I mean, everything's fluid right now, so I have no idea if that's true or not. But it looks like Georgia's wide receiver room as of right now is going to be Isiah Canion, Sokovie White, London Humphreys, help me out here, Taylor Taylor, C.J. Wiley, and Landon Rowland. So, I mean, that's not a bad group. It would be nice. I think Georgia wanted to have a big body like Canion and then have another slot guy. But it looks like Humphreys, Sokovie are going to be the slot guy for this team this upcoming season.
Well, so, I mean, with a week left, I'm just looking over Georgia. I mean, again, we don't know what's going to come down the pike in terms of people leaving. But to me, going back to that D3, I don't think you can ever have enough bodies on the defensive line. And if we could find some D3 guys that are coming from the defensive line, because I worry about that. I think we're thin on the D line. But I don't know. That's just me.
Well, there are people. I mean, Georgia. There's those dudes from Florida State that Georgia's looking at. I know they're looking to add another offensive lineman. There's a kid from South Carolina who says Georgia's his front runner. Georgia says, well, there's no. Hold on, I'm going to pull that up because it's actually decently important. Dallas, no, not Dallas Dickerson. Josiah Thompson. He visited Georgia on January 9th, but Georgia said that there wasn't any interest in him, but he said that Georgia's his favorite. So they're going to add, I think they're going to add probably another defensive lineman, hopefully, and then they're probably going to add another offensive lineman, if I had to guess.
Well, again, just because of what we see throughout the season, I don't think you can have enough quality defensive and offensive linemen. So,
and by the way, Bo Hewley could absolutely pull an Amaris Williams and come right back home. He could just, he just wants to be babied and told how great he is, and then he comes back.
wow. Okay, well, we'll see what happens. But I'm sure there's some schools out there that would be. I mean, he's a highly recruited offensive lineman that played at Georgia. I mean,
well, yeah, of course. But, Amaris Mims did the same thing, and, he's in the NFL starting tackle with the Cincinnati Bengals, and he left, and they had the whole thing at Florida State. They had the tomahawk chop and everything for him out there, and he looked miserable. I remember watching that video. But, sometimes these guys just need to be told how great they are, and then they're like, I have it good where I was. Grass isn't always greener. Oh, and then let's talk about Amaris Williams, talking about defensive line. Edge rusher, went to Auburn, was a 4-star. I don't know his stats. I know he played. He's a starter. But again, with Gabe Harris coming back, and then on the other end, you have Isaiah Gibson and Quintavious Johnson. It could be a death piece. Doesn't hurt. He's a 4-star, and he played at Auburn, and he was pretty freaking good. So I think that that was a massive pick.
Where was he at? He's from Georgia, right?
No, he's from North Carolina.
Oh, he is? Okay.
Yeah, Clinton, North Carolina.
Was Georgia in on him whenever he committed to or went to Auburn?
Let's see. I'm about to pull it up, actually.
I'd be curious. The kid from Clemson.
Yes, he went on an official visit in 2023 to Georgia, December 15th. December 20th, he was decommitted from Florida, then went to Auburn. So, yes, Georgia was absolutely in the mix.
Yeah. That's the other thing. These kids that Georgia has recruited and were aware of, those are. I mean, they obviously know these kids well enough to know that they absolutely, the culture is, there's a good fit, locker room fit, I guess.
Yes. Let's pull up his stats real quick. Sorry. Let's see. He had 14 total tackles in 2025, 9 solo tackles, 5 assists, 2 sacks. Tackle against Georgia, Missouri, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, and then Mercer he played. So, he's played and 4-star high-end guy. So, I think pretty good pickup.
Yeah, we'll see. We still got the kid from the Army. Maybe he'll have a chance to eat some biscuits and gravy because he needs it. But
I think that's kind of why everyone was jerking off, celebrating that we got him, that he was a freak athlete. But actually, I can't believe I'm saying this. Roderick Robinson had a really good point. These Army guys are lean, mean. That's what they're known for. And if you ever look at like Army's offensive line, defensive line, they're thin dudes.
Yeah.
And so it's going to take a little bit to gain some weight.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So let's talk about what was really the major problem. So Georgia had a ton of retention. Everyone thinks they have major retention, at least. That's been the key. That's been what Kirby's talked about: retention of coaches, retention of players, and holding the team together so you have consistency throughout the seasons. So then last night, about 7 o'clock, it was rumored KJ Bolden, Nate Frazier, and Chauncey Bowens could all possibly hit the portal, and that they haven't signed their contracts with Georgia for the next year. So then that leads people to, believe that, there's fire on the mountain and that, there's everything's coming down. So really the Chauncey Bowens thing is Chauncey just wants more carries, and I got to be honest with you, as the number one fan of the Chauncey Bowens club, I totally agree with him. Give the man his touches, Kirby. Bobo, do something. So that was his gripe. He hasn't signed yet. There's no official statement that he signed, but Chauncey Bowens, you don't have to worry. I know for a fact that Chauncey Bowens will be staying at the University of Georgia, and he should stay, and Georgia should use him more. I know he got hurt toward the end of the year, but I think in those games, from the Alabama game all the way to the Mississippi State game, Texas, when he got hurt, was the best player or running back.
That's running back, yeah, that we had.
Running back, not a home run hitter like Nate is, but he's the best running back. So that was a big get. The next thing was Nate Frazier. There was rumors that he hated the running backs coach at Georgia. I forget his name for some reason right now. We got him from Tech. Then he wanted more money in his contract dispute. I gotta tell you though, I don't want this to get back to Nate Frazier, but he did post on Instagram the 2 days after Georgia lost the Sugar Bowl. He was in a walking boot, so he had to be down in Miami not that long after the loss. He was in Miami with a walking boot on after Georgia lost the Sugar Bowl in a Lamborghini. You need more money?
Nate Frazier was?
Yes. He posted that on Instagram.
Good for him. Maybe he rented it for the day.
Well, I guess that's why he needs more money. You know, I don't know. I don't know who's his financial advisor. Fucking really shitty. So he wants to get paid more. Come to find out, there's tampering afoot. The Ohio State, there was transfer portal rumors, and it was Ohio State was the likely landing spot. That was, come to find out, absolutely tampering. Don't know where that source is from. Don't know what that is. But absolutely there is tampering with the Georgia players. Same thing with KJ Bolden. KJ Bolden hadn't signed anything because, you know, it's kind of like he's going to come no matter what. But still, people panicked because of that. So then Rusty Manziel, he put it out on 3, and his KJ Bolden's mom. I think this is great, by the way. I actually like this story a lot. KJ Bolden's mom called Rusty Manziel and was like, "Hey, my phone's blowing up about KJ leaving. What's up with this?" Rusty Manziel tells her, and she goes, and this is a true quote. He put it up on the board. You can see it. You tell them that KJ ain't going no damn where. He loves Kirby. He loves Georgia. And then Rusty Manziel said he was doing what he was told. So, again, but a tampering again with KJ Bolden, FSU, Texas, Ohio State, Florida, Ole Miss, all these teams are tampering. And Georgia's doing it too. Let's not act like we're saints either. That Caden Lee kid from Ole Miss, very clear. Ole Miss people are getting information. The guy that called Lane Kiffin a hoe, shout out him. He was the one who reported that Caden Lee was going to go our transfer portal. If he was going to get into it, it was going to be Georgia. Well, how did he get that information? Georgia's very clearly tampering and talking to that kid. So we're not saints either, but that's where most of these rumors are coming from. So Chauncey's not leaving, KJ Bolden's not leaving, Nate Frazier, as of right now things could change. We got till Friday at midnight, so white knuckle it. But Nate Frazier is not going to leave Georgia for right now. Now that could change, but according to a source. Via another source, Nate Frazier is not going to leave because Nate Frazier said that. That's all the sourcing I know. So, and you could connect the dots on who I might have reached out to. If you've watched this video, you probably definitely know. So, or watched our videos. So, all in all, those are the drama. Now, go.
Well, I don't. I'm 55 or will be shortly. I'm not on any social media, and I'm very thankful for it every single day. I don't feel like I've missed anything good in my life by not being on social media. And one of the reasons is this kind of shit right here. I didn't know anything about it until you texted me, and I looked at it with one eye because I was asleep. I was almost asleep at 10:45 on a Saturday. I don't pay attention to this kind of stuff. I used to pay attention to recruiting and who we got so you could follow them, but now I see who's on the roster come spring and what we got. And it is really, for me, for an old guy like me, it was easy. I grew up here. I went to school at Georgia. I knew all the high schools that these kids went to. I played against them, been watching them in the playoffs and the high school playoffs for years. There was a connection there. It's harder and harder for me to have a connection to any of this stuff, nor to get emotionally involved in it. And I made the comment to you, it's weird. It's not quite professional, because there's no rules. If it was professional, there would be rules like the tampering stuff.
Tampering could not happen.
But there aren't any. But it's not. But yet players are getting paid enough to, whether Nate Frazier, that was his, but obviously Carson Beck got a Lambo. They're getting paid enough to have a Lamborghini. They're not accountable to any kind of commitment that I see. So they hold all the power. So your program can go from apex, like Alabama, to being at the bottom quickly in this type of environment. And I'm thankful, we're just honest here. There's a lot of criticism and things that we say that maybe a lot of Georgia fans would look at and say, well, damn, that's harsh. Maybe it is, but I'm glad we've got Kirby. I'm glad we got the culture. But there's no guarantee that this shit will last. It just isn't. So no. I don't know what all this means. I look and hopefully we retain the guys that helped us this year and contributed, and I'll see who comes on board and who we got come the spring. But until this, and I don't know that it will be, but until this gets solved, every major program is going to have this. Who's going to be the highest bidder for your best players?
Yeah.
And they're going to be reached out to proactively by these programs.
And if you're one of the top programs in college football, which Georgia is, you're going to have people come every single day trying to poach your players. So it just is what it is. And by the way, it's not going to get any better because last year, unless something major happens, which I doubt it will, last offseason, we were told, this lawsuit that was going on is going to be a major help, and it's going to set not only the calendar, but it's going to set the transfer portal and NIL. It's going to help everything. So then we have rules about, cap space and how much a roster costs, and it's $25 million throughout your entire athletic program, and all this. Frankly, bullshit. Deloitte was going to come in and set the fair market value on wide receivers. Cam Coleman just went to Texas and got probably $4 million, $5 million. That's totally out of the cap space. So it's all just a bunch of bullshit, and it will never change, I don't think. And by the way, a lot of people, it's not just us, and there's probably a lot of people watching our video right now that are agreeing with us who are like, well, this sucks. This takes away the enjoyment of college football.
Yes.
I totally agree with them. But then, you have, again, shout out Roderick Robinson, because I've just been following him a lot lately. Good stuff, good info. So there you go, Roddy. I gave you a shout out there. But, and he goes, people were complaining and going, I don't really, I'm not going to engage with college football only for the games, and that's it now. And, the sport's broken, and then people like Roddy go, well, that's not true because the ratings are the highest it's ever been. Okay, I'm just going to point this out because Josh Pates pointed it out too, and he's right. NASCAR, at one time was etching up to be the fourth big sport, and they changed their sport so much to where the hardcore, the rednecks that were in the center field there, they stopped showing up, and then it became Richie Rich. And guess where NASCAR is now?
I don't even know what their season is. I have no idea.
Exactly. It is nowhere where it used to be. Nowhere. Because they didn't appreciate the hardcore fans that were there from the very beginning. And what's going on right now is that the hardcore fans are starting to not disappear, because they're going to be there on Saturday. They're going to be there on Saturday. They're going to pull for their university because that's where they went, and there's a lot of
the emotional attachment. I just can't. It's hard when nobody
you
else.
You can't imagine a Saturday without watching Georgia play. But you're not going to watch. I guarantee you're not going to watch a Washington versus Michigan game or a Rutgers versus Penn State game.
No,
you're just not going to do that anymore. So that's what's going to happen, and if things don't change. Now, hopefully they do change, and hopefully they change for the better. But if it's going to stay the way it is, it's only going to get worse. And by the way, not to rag on Indiana. Obviously I have ties to Indiana. I like Indiana. We went there. I enjoyed my time there, even though I slipped slipped and fell. Maybe they need to work on de-icing the university, Bloomington. But in 2021 and 2022, they had nobody at their games. Nobody. No one was there. And then all of a sudden, they're selling out Mercedes-Benz. There were maybe 5 Oregon fans at the Peach Bowl the other day, Friday, and it was all Indiana fans. And I know they're the number 1 team in the country, and they are pretty dominant, and they look really good. But where the fuck were they whenever the team sucked? Why weren't they saying, hey, this is bullshit. This has got to stop? I guarantee you at Alabama, Auburn, look at Auburn. At schools like that, they would say, hey, this is Florida. Hey, this is bullshit. Yeah. We're not going to do this anymore. Hey, yeah, Tennessee, great point. They hired Greg Schiano after Jeremy Pruitt. They had a freaking protest.
Marched.
Yes, on the campus, and went to the AD's office and was burning him in effigy. So, yeah, dude, those are just bandwagon fans. That's not sustainable for college football.
No, I totally agree. I can tell you from one person's perspective who, I would say that I probably am in the demographic that college football would want to hang on to, right? My passion now has to be regulated based on, I feel like I have more loyalty oftentimes to the University of Georgia than do a lot of the kids that commit to play football there, because they commit, they stay 1 year, and then they leave. And so they come in like hired mercenaries, and believe me, I appreciate them, Zachariah Branch and others. But at the same time, it feels kind of cheap, to be honest with you. But that's where we're at. But my thing is, I really do, and I think a lot of Georgia fans are this way. When we lose, I go into deep mourning if it's during the season, we've got to play the next game. So, but I can't consume any kind of sports at all. Sports Center, ESPN. I'm not interested. I'm completely devastated, and I cannot commit that much emotion if the players themselves are not emotionally committed. So that's where I'm at. And all this there's no loyalty or no commitment. Is whoever has the highest, who can do the most for the player. Not can the player make himself a better football player, and can he make the university and the university's team better? There's none of that. It's seemingly, or it's being dissipated quickly. And so that's my frustration with all this.
I totally agree. And by the way, gone are the days of the Stetson Bennett who walks on, transfers, comes back, wins back. We all know the story. Gone are the days of that. And then think about, by the way, Brock Bowers, NIL guy. He came in as a freshman when NIL happened. Think about, to me, outside of Herschel Walker, probably the greatest football player to ever play at the University of Georgia. Unbelievable amount of talent is priceless. You couldn't could not name a number that he's worth. I think he's worth more than anything, more than any player ever at Georgia. And you never once, ever, in the 3 years that he was here, ever heard anything about contract negotiations or wanting more money. He's going to leave. You never heard anything about that, and look where he's at. I don't know if you could point that out as an example to those players, like you said, that have come to Georgia.
It would fall on deaf ears.
It would fall on deaf ears. But look at where Brock Bowers and Stetson Bennett are. So, and Warren McClendon. Think about him. How many generations of Georgia football players is in his family?
Lots.
I mean, his grandpa, his dad, his uncle, and then him. And then he finally gets to play, wins 2 national championships, and he's with the Rams. There's just so many examples of guys where they cared about Georgia and things worked out for them. And I don't know. Whatever. That's all I'm going to say about that. That's all I'm going to say. Okay. 2 things. We'll have a Georgia basketball minute at the very end, and then I want to talk about this because it is of interest, and we talked about it off air, and I think it needs to be noted before we go off air. This is YouTube. I don't know what you ever at the end of this video, so it needs to be talked about. So Jeff Sintel talked about it, and he wrote an article about the 2023 recruiting class, the disappearing class of 2023. And it's really interesting because this all goes into what we were talking about with the transfer portal and recruiting. Let's just take a quick second. So Georgia, the 23 recruiting class, now think about where we were at that time as I'm wearing the hat. Georgia just won back-to-back national championships, and they're riding high. Stetson's gone, but they retain a lot of the key pieces from that second national championship, and then Carson Beck's going to come in and start. So let's talk about some of these. So these are the hits that Georgia got. So Jordan Hall, that's a hit. Braylon Wilson, that's a hit. Monroe Freeling, that's a hit. C.J. Allen, that's a hit. Lawson Lucky, hit. And then I think we're going to have to go all the way down to the bottom. Peyton Woodring. So those are the guys that Georgia, they are still on the team, or they stayed on the team and then either have gone to the NFL or they're going to stay for another year. And contributed and really high-end talent who are good. Now, let's go talk about the guys that Georgia either whiffed on or have transferred. A.J. Harris, whiff, major whiff. And by the way, a 5-star. And I think he's transferring from Penn State. Janelle Aguero, obviously transferred. Damian Wilson, we're suing him. Troy Bowles, Bo Hewley, transfer. Sam Mpemba, transfer. Jamal Jarrett. We took down the AJC, stopped them from printing paper, but now they're online. Jamal Jarrett transferred. Gabe Harris, I forgot him. That's a hit. I mean, yeah. Pierce Spurlin, I'm not going to count that. Again, we talked about that, but medical redshirt, whiff. Tyler Williams, wide receiver, whiff. Kellen Smith Jr., I don't even know if where he is. That is pretty bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's see. Hold on. Is he still on Georgia? Yeah, he's still on Georgia. And then Anthony Evans, Chris Pill, Roderick Robinson, transferred. Zeed Haynes, he was a wide receiver. Completely missed on him. Daniel Harris, Jamal Merriweather, he's still on the team, just hasn't played. Justin Rhett, transferred. Kyron Jones, transfer. And Joshua Miller, I don't even know if he's on the team, quite frankly. So, a lot of people that either Georgia missed on or whiffed. And let's go, if you want to go back, do yourself some fun if you ever want to kill some time. Go back and look at the 2019, 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, and 22 recruiting classes. Go and look at those and see why Georgia had that run there. I mean, Georgia's technically still on its run, but why they won back-to-back national championships. Just go and look at those names. All of them were contributors in one way or another to those two national championships. And then talk about the retention rate. So, class of 2016, Kirby's first year, 71%. Class of 2017, 76%. Class of 18, 75%. 2019, 75%. 2020, when was Justin Fields? So 2019 is when the transfer portal really kind of became what it is. But you're still in the 70s. 2020, 72%. 2021, COVID, a little weird, 50%. 22, 43%. And I think this year is that 23 team was under 30% or less. So you want to know why Georgia didn't win the Sugar Bowl and why they're having the issues that they're having and why they look extremely flawed against teams that usually Georgia would pound? This is why. And it's, they not only did they whiff, but they had guys that left that could have been contributors. Though, so far, Georgia's been, outside of Justin Fields and A.D. Mitchell, there really hasn't been a huge success story on people leaving Georgia and then being, good. So
Carson Beck's about to prove you wrong.
I don't think so.
Anyway, but no, we were talking about this, before we jumped on and started doing the show. I mean, think about how hard a college coach's job is. You've got to be an excellent evaluator of talent, i.e., who you recruit. You got to be able to constantly be able to recruit your roster, to keep them, right? Yeah. You got to have you got to be able to develop them. You got to give them playing time, which I think Kirby does probably one of the better jobs in the country of rotating guys in and out and getting them playing time early. And it's just extremely difficult. And if Georgia, I wouldn't be surprised if we look at the recruiting class 2 years from now and it's not similar, 30%. And it also tells you better be a really good evaluator and learn to use the portal strategically to fill those gaps. You cannot miss in recruiting or lose, and retain 30% of your recruiting class and also miss in the transfer portal. You cannot. If that is the death knell of a program.
It's way harder to miss in the transfer portal than it is recruiting because you got a little bit of time to figure it out in recruiting.
But I'm going to tell you something. I think, listen, and I don't know if it's right or wrong. I'm just stating a fact. Within the transfer portal and also in terms of recruiting out of high school, Kirby has a much more restrictive box than a lot of programs across the country. Oh, yeah. So that's another thing that we've got to just be cognizant of when it comes to this stuff. And I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying he's not like a Dabo. But if you don't fit the mentality, and look, you and I talked about it. This was the first year since Kirby's first year of coaching or recruiting at Georgia. And when he came in, we only got 1 5-star. And I think that's a reflection of Kirby's like, hey, I'm just not going to play these games. These kids have not done anything in college. We don't know where they're going to be 2 years from now. Hell, we'll drop in shit tons of money on them, and they're unproven. I get it, but
look at Dylan Raiola.
Yeah.
And by the way, no one knows where he's going to go or if he's going to, who knows? And that was going to be the next guy in line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he stinks. So.
Well, yeah, a lot of that. Well, anyway.
But anyway, Kirby makes his own box, like Steve Sarkisian, because Georgia could absolutely wheel a deal on people like Texas and Texas Tech.
Could.
They could, but they're not going to. So it's just sour grapes at this point. I don't know why people get so upset about it. Because it's just that's Kirby's approach.
I'm not upset about it.
I'd rather win the way that we're winning than how Texas or Texas Tech do it. It feels empty.
Well, I I don't know. I want to win, and I know that we can't be whiffing on 30% of our recruiting. If our whole thing is we're going to recruit and then we're going to develop you and then we're going to get you in the NFL, well, if you're only dealing with 30% of the pool, that makes it really difficult. And I'm not saying that it's just the nature of what we're dealing with. And I don't know. I'm not in charge of improving it, but we need to be aware of it.
Well, thankfully, our recruiting pool is the state of Georgia, so that's really the saving.
Yeah, but it's not. We don't have that lockdown like we used to. Now that everybody can get a Lamborghini for playing either. So,
anyway, by the way, before we move on to the Georgia basketball minute, Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit talking about Carson Beck being, just abused. I think Kirby had him in a ball gag and tied him up and was whipping him Monday through Friday before Saturdays because he had a hell of a time at Georgia, evidently. Not like he won 2 national championships, 2 SEC championships, had a shot. By the way, they said they said in the broadcast of that game, he came to Miami to compete for championships. Where the fuck was I the last 2 years? Because I don't know. He had a shot in 23 and he blew that, and then he had a shot in 24 and he fucking left the team and wasn't anywhere to
by the way,
during the Sugar Bowl. So
by the way,
yourself,
that 24 team had, I would say, so out of character for the Georgia team. We designed the entire offense to be quarterback centric to highlight him, and then he
sucked.
And he kept throwing it to the wrong colored jersey. So
yeah, and then would have the little pouty face, and Kirby would have to come and give him a hug and a kiss and tell him how great he is. And all Kirby has ever done is talk about how great a kid Carson is, and he was a leader for the program, and all has given this guy his flowers. And then so Carson Beck definitely said something to Fowler and Herbstreit sometime recently about how he felt gypped out on something.
Here's the other thing too. You just gotta be aware. There may have been something that they interpreted or took a context out of, but they want a storyline and a narrative, and that's what you're gonna get. And therefore, that's the reason I don't listen to those people because I don't care.
Their narrative is bullshit. All right, Georgia basketball minute before we wrap up here. We've gone long. Georgia, big win, not a big win. Bad loss against Florida. They were the underdogs there, and then Santo, he didn't really help out with giving the people's elbow there in the first half. But Georgia, kept it close, kept it competitive. But you'd like to see a little bit better of a result. But whatever, sour grapes at this point. It's basketball. Georgia against South Carolina on the road. South Carolina was hot. Georgia was not playing really well in the first half. At one point, they were down by 12, I think. Double digits for sure. And got it within a possession at halftime, and then came back in the second half, won. Used to, under the Mark Fox and Mike White and Tom Crean, those are the games Georgia would have definitely have lost in basketball. And they played well down the stretch. This team, there is going to be a problem that I can foresee where they have stretches where they are cold as ice, especially if they're not scoring in transition. But, man, are they fun to watch. They're fast. They're quick. They score a ton of points. They play really good defense, especially with Cyril in there and Johnson. So they play really well. And I think this team's going to be good. I mean, they're scoring over 90 points a game. So that bodes well for a tournament run. So we'll see what happens Tuesday or Wednesday. This is how bad we are about basketball. I don't know what day we play on. I'm guessing Tuesday because that seems like when teams play against Ole Miss. Hopefully their field goal kicker doesn't show up.
I'm glad to see Georgia basketball competitive. There's no reason whenever you see all these programs in the Southeast that traditionally have not been basketball powers like the Alabamas and places like that. And now all of a sudden they are. There's no reason that Georgia can't be and should be. We should be. So it's it's up to us, and I'm including myself, to give them some support. So I'll start paying more attention now that I have no more football, because football is effectively over for me. But I'm going to leave with this about the national championship and just about this season. No, this is big picture stuff. I don't know all these coaches like a Lane Kiffin and all these coaches like the guy that got all these coaching changes. What the Signetti guy has done at Indiana,
unbelievable.
You can turn a program from absolutely zero to be winning and evidently be dominant, and we'll see what happens.
Possibly.
In 2 to 3 years. So these programs that have hired these big-time coaches and backed up the Brinks trucks to pay them, man, if I am Lane Kiffin, there's no such thing as a honeymoon. You better win right now. And there's no excuse if I'm a LSU fan or any other fan and with these new coaches, my patience is zero. And you have Signetti to thank for that. And good for him.
Well, Kirk Signetti, what he has done at Indiana is one of the more remarkable things in college football ever.
You and I were thinking about it when we went up to Indianapolis to watch Georgia whip Alabama's ass for the first time, and we stayed in Bloomington and drove into Indianapolis. If you would have told me, and however many years, what is that? 4 years, they're going to be playing for a national championship, I would have said, you are out of your mind. There's
no way. I remember we went on campus and we were like, well, we have to go see Memorial Hall. Like, that's a big deal. Also, like, Archie has a statue there. So I had to see that. And we walk over, and the first thing we saw was their the football stadium, which I think it's called Memorial.
I don't know. It's across the parking lot, and it was barren.
Dude, bare, and it's so small compared to the basketball arena.
Yeah.
It's hilarious to me. So, and I took, by the way, my phone, it popped up on the memories of the national championship trip that we took. And there's a picture that I took of Indiana's football stadium. And I just laugh about it because there's no way if you told me, hey, Georgia's going to win the next 2 national championships, but I'm going to tell y'all something, Indiana's going to win it, or possibly could win it. I'd be like, there's absolutely, who's going to be their coach? Saban? Like, it would just be no chance in hell that they would have had that.
Yeah.
So what he's done is remarkable, and with the guys that he's done it with, outside of Mendoza, who, by the way, Georgia was in on. I liked him whenever he was at Cal. Outside of him, they're really nobodies, and they are
bunch of really good players from D3 schools that came with him from JMU.
D2 and Division 1A.
Yeah. So, but no, good for him, and all these coaches that get these big time contracts and these big time schools. I would if I were them, I would not be sleeping well at night because there's no patience.
Zero. All right, national championship pick: Indiana, Miami in the Orange Bowl.
I think Indiana's going to fuck them up, and I hope they do. I'm pulling for Indiana.
I'll be wearing. I don't know where my Indiana hat went, but I wore it the other day as a joke. But I'll be wearing it Monday on the 19th. Oh. By the way, did you know, fun fact, if you've listened this long, you need to stay for this. Did you know that Indiana has the largest living alumni base?
So more graduates from Indiana than any other school?
Yeah, they have over 800,000 people.
Well, I guess Bloomington leads to longevity. That's the only thing that tells me. They got a bunch of...
you know how much Georgia has? I looked it up.
No.
It's over 100,000.
You would think it would be more than that. 30. What's the student body of Georgia?
Now it's like 30,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say with pumping out 30,000 people. I mean, all of them.
Well, not all of them graduate.
I know, but you would think vast majority of them do.
Hold on. Let's pull this up real quick. Living Alumni does UGA have? IGA. That's not. Oh. I was wrong. I don't know where I got my number from. The University of Georgia has over 372,000. That makes more sense. I don't know why I said 100,000, but 372. And look at that. There's two of them on this recording. Look at that.
Yep.
So 370 more thousand. Anyway, all right. I don't know when our next video is going to be. Probably sometime at the end of the week. Talking about the end of the transfer portal. Might be the day of the national championship, just as everything is concrete and final. So we'll keep you posted. We'll keep you posted on all of our social media channels. That is X, Instagram, and TikTok. And remember to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can know whenever we post our next video. All right, any closing thoughts?
Nope, not for me.
All right, well, we'll see you on the other side.
See ya.